Hello, you are all very welcome back to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk YouTube channel. This is the Talk of the League podcast. My name is Matt Smith and I'm joined once again. We had a bit of an international break again there last week. Jamie wasn't around, but joined again once again by Jamie McCoy. Jamie, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, sorry for that last weekend, mate. Letting you on short notice. It's been nice the international break, though, mate. Ain't it? I'm sure you've enjoyed it because I tell you, I've thought of absolutely nothing to do with my football club for the 18 days, and it was absolutely bliss. And then I just got a little bit excited to watch them again, and bang. But we'll get on to
Yeah.
that later. But other than that, mate, I'm doing really good.
Obviously, England had a decent international break. Ireland had a decent international break as well. Ireland got a draw against Belgium, then they came out with a last-minute winner
Yeah.
against Lithuania, so it was decent for them. Obviously, England had a decent one as well. But yes, we are back. We are back into the home straight of the Premier League season. In and around 9, 10, 8 games left for certain teams, depending on COVID cancellations and cup competitions. And unfortunately, for us two, we're going to have to talk about both of our teams in this podcast. But it's for like bad reasons for both of our teams. Obviously, Everton are in on Sky Sports News as the big team that could be getting relegated. Could Everton go down? And yes, they can't because they are literally on paper the worst form team in the league, and they have been for the last 3 or 4 months. So we're going to have to talk about that. We're obviously going to talk about Manchester United, your team as well, after a disappointing result coming back from international break as well for them. And then we're going to talk about obviously the results now. Going to get stuck into them. Then we're going to talk about the upcoming fixtures. Obviously, we have a Monday night game tonight as well between Crystal Palace
Yeah.
and Arsenal. So we're going to be talking about that. Just a quick one as well. Just a quick shout out to Tariq who jumped in last week in replace of Jamie. Thanks very much for jumping on in Jamie's place last week. I'm pretty sure that Tariq is going to be doing a watch along on his own channel, Tariq Talks. So make sure you go over, have a look at his channel as well if you like watch alongs and stuff like that. He streams pretty much nearly every day. So thanks so much, Tariq, for coming on as a super sub
I
last
do
week. Really
appreciate that.
appreciate it.
It was a bit of a crazy Monday night for me last week. I won't go into it. Obviously, all you guys obviously know what the crack was, but that's something I've been waiting for a little while. So yeah, big shout out to the gentleman that filled in for me, and the show I listened to it as well. It was a cracking little show. So well done to the 2 years anyway.
Right, no problem. Let's get stuck into this then, okay? First game back after the international break. A standard 2-0 win for Liverpool at home to Watford, rounded off with a penalty as well. So they momentarily went ahead for a couple of hours ahead of Man City in the title race. Man City coped with it well with their own 2-0 win away from home to Burnley, which could have been a potential banana skin for them, but they ended up getting the result and then are back on top of the league there as well. Brighton and Norwich 0-0. Mopay missed a penalty in that game as well. So a point there for Norwich could be valuable towards the end of the season, even though I don't think it's going to be enough. They probably needed the 3 points there. Obviously, the big shock, Chelsea 1, Brentford 4. We're going to touch on that now in a minute. Leeds and Southampton 1-1. Wolves in the bit of a derby there as well, had 2-1 at home to Aston Villa. Wolves are just being really sneaky at the moment, and I'm interested to know your thoughts in a minute when we get through the rest of these as well. They're doing really well at the moment. It's like that fourth spot and fifth spot for the European spaces is really hotting up. A few weeks ago, it was kind of like Manchester United and Arsenal were kind of fighting for fourth. Then it was kind of between Spurs and West Ham and stuff. So it's wide open now between 4 or 5 teams. So we'll get
Yeah.
stuck into that a little bit later on as well. Obviously, to round off half-5 fixture on the Saturday, Manchester United and Leicester were a 1-1 draw. Then we had 2 games on the Sunday. Unfortunately, Everton was the first game, beaten 2-1 by West Ham. We're going to chat about that again. There was another sending off of that game for Everton. So now in a big game on Wednesday evening for Everton, we're going to be without 2 first team players. So obviously it's not ideal. And there's a lot of luck that seems to be going against Everton at the moment. And not making excuses, but it does seem to be a lot of things happening at the wrong time for Everton. 2-1 loss there. West Ham, big 3 points for them, pushing for those European spots as well. They have a big game coming up on Thursday as well. I can't remember. Leon, I think, is on Thursday in the Europa League. I think they're playing. It's a big game for them. And then
Yeah.
obviously last night's result, Newcastle went 1-0 up away from home to Spurs, but then Spurs turned on the afterburners and ran away with a 5-1.
Yeah.
Obviously, the end of this game week is going to be tonight's game between Crystal Palace and Arsenal. We're going to chat about that a little bit later on. It's going to be an interesting game under the lights at Selhurst Park. But obviously, Jamie, the game that stands out there, all those kind of results weren't really a shock, I don't think, bar one, and that was obviously Brentford against Chelsea. Tuchel came out himself and said it happens every time when we come back from an international break. We just don't seem to have that cutting edge. Obviously, Brentford are going to be delighted with the 3 points. It's one of those in the fight for relegation. It's one of those 3 points that come out of nowhere. You're not expecting it. They probably weren't expecting it themselves. They probably would have taken a point. Huge result for Brentford, but a bit of a disappointing one, obviously, for Chelsea. Mentioned it earlier on, they're kind of just happy sitting there in third spot. But if Arsenal get a win tonight, Spurs the way they're going as well, like they're going to have to start looking over their shoulder eventually, aren't they? What did you make of that result yourself, Jamie?
I think it was, I watched the extended highlights because on Saturday around sort of 5 o'clock-ish, I went to watch the boxing in Newcastle. I went to the utility arena to watch the boxing. So I actually didn't see that much football on Saturday as to, like, I wasn't really paying attention to the 3 o'clock kickoffs because I knew I was busy anyway. I didn't even see them. Keane will be aware of that. I didn't watch the game, which turned out to be a bit of a blessing by the sounds of what I've heard about it. So I kind of was out of range with football on Saturday, but looked through the results, obviously, just to have a little nosy in between fights. And I couldn't believe it. I see that. So yesterday, obviously, with coming on here on the Mondays and covering different teams and stuff, I like to sort of watch extended highlights just in case we want to talk about specific points on here. And I just thought I'm going to have a little watch of this. And I think it was a classic case of just an absolute shell shock. And I always feel like when you're in like a relegation fight, which Brentford are sort of still there, I think that's majorly helped them out. But I just think it was a classic case of they took their chances really well. Like all the goals were fantastic goals. Like and Christian Eriksen scoring as well. You just can't help but smile when you see him, let alone scoring a goal. Just seeing him on the field, and took his goal really well. Come back to haunt Chelsea again, what he used to do in his Tottenham shirt. So it was good to see him playing. But I just think it was a classic case of it was just so quick, the goals, and it was just like Chelsea just didn't have an answer, and they just looked flat-footed. I think the off-the-field stuff is starting to really dribble onto the field. I'm not saying it's affecting the playing squad because I feel like they're professional enough and they're world-class players, half of that squad, to be able to deal with that. But I think the uncertainty around the club, the Americans being involved and the protest before the game, that's not really what you want to walk into as a player. Do you know what I mean? And I think that environment probably hindered them a little bit, but you still expect 11 blue shirts to go out and beat Brentford. No disrespect to Brentford, very classy result. I was delighted for them, but you're probably not so in the current league position. But I just feel like it was just a classic from the extended highlights. I didn't watch the full game, but from the extended highlights, I just think they were just more at it. Like Chelsea looked like they were slow, lethargic, just ran out of ideas, and you just don't expect that from a Tuchel team. And they just got old manned a little bit, I feel, and they took their chances so well, and the goals were fantastic finishes. So props to Brentford, and that's a massive push for them to stay in the division. I feel like they've got a little bit of quality in that team, and with Ivan Toney up front and Mbuemo, they've got goals in that team as well, and they've got that little bit of quality now with Eriksen, and he seems to be making a difference. And it was a shock result, but a very, very good performance based on, as I say, what I've seen. I didn't see the full game, so I can just go off of what I've seen. But I thought, you know what, they deserved that. 100%, they deserved it. So massive result in the relegation fight.
Yeah, like I said a few weeks ago, that I think this league season is going to be, you're probably going to need the lowest amount to actually survive. Points tally, usually they say the 40 point marker is the magic number. I think you're only going to need about 35, 36, maybe 37 at a push. Like Brentford are already on 33, so they're probably saying to themselves, listen, we can grind out 3 or 4 draws and get maybe a win somewhere, they're safe. I mean, I think Brentford are fairly safe in terms of that. Chelsea, they're going to have to be careful, like I said, about looking over their shoulder. Obviously, what's important to them, they feel as though obviously that they're out of the title race, which they are. They're miles behind, obviously, Man City and Liverpool. They're still 5 points ahead of Spurs with a game in hand, but they're only 5 points ahead of Arsenal, and Arsenal have a game in hand on Chelsea. Chelsea are in one of those positions where they have a lot of players who are out of contract in the summer who are already basically, their agents are already offering them to different teams, the likes of Rudiger, Christensen, the likes. They're obviously in that kind of mode where they're going to say, right, we'll just commit to the cup competitions. There's maybe 3 or 4 games left before we get to the finals in them and stuff like that. One game in the semi-final in the FA Cup. So they're kind of probably saying to themselves, as players, listen, we'll try and win the FA Cup, bit of silverware there. We'll try our best to win the Champions League, bit of silverware there. Whatever happens in the league, whatever happens in the league, because I won't be here next season. And that's not a great place for Chelsea players to be in. There's probably players there that don't want to be there anymore because they just don't know what's going on. New ownership comes in. You don't know what's being said in the dressing room as well. It's going to be a bit of a tricky situation for Chelsea. I'm sure they'll still finish in the top 4. But not if they keep getting results like that. We touched on obviously Eriksen coming back. It was fantastic. He scored a couple of goals now for Brentford. He obviously he scored on the international break as well for Denmark. In the stadium where he actually took the cardiac arrest. So that was a really nice moment as well for Eriksen. But we were talking about Brentford around when we first started this podcast, and we are kind of saying they had a great start to the season and then they just flatlined. And they were lucky that they got so many points on the board at the start of the season. And they were kind of looking, they kind of lacked a bit of creativity. So it's a stroke of genius to bring in someone of Christian Eriksen's quality. And it's paying dividends for them. They've picked up a few points over the last few weeks as well. They obviously got massive 3 points there a few weeks ago against Norwich, and they've picked up a random 3 points against Chelsea. So listen, the teams who are going to be relegated, are getting smaller and smaller each week, every week that goes by. And my team, Everton, are one of those teams. So now's the time to move on to my team, Everton. Unfortunately, we're going to have to chat about them. They've only got like 2 wins in the league in the last like 16 or 17 games, something like that. Stats were coming up there on the side of the telly when they were playing West Ham, and basically when you see those stats like chances created, goals expected, all this kind of stuff, goals conceded, Everton are like 20th, 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 all the way down. And they are, like, in fairness, if Everton didn't have those 13 or 14 points on the board at the start of the season, we'd be relegated already. That's how bad Everton are at the moment. In terms of the game against West Ham on the weekend, Everton actually played okay. They actually created chances. West Ham didn't really seem up to it for some reason. Maybe they do have that one eye on the game on on Thursday against Lyon. Everton had a bit of a blow in the warm-up. Donny van de Beek was warming up, and he pulled up with an injury in the warm-up. So that meant we were already short on midfield players. So that meant Mason Holgate had to go into midfield for Everton. So we were up against it. That's just Everton's look this season. I mean, we had to play the cup game against Crystal Palace without any of our loan players because they're all cup tied. Allen gets sent off the game before against Newcastle with no midfielders, and then one of our midfielders who's on loan with us gets injured in the warm up in one of the big game for us as well. Then Michael Keane gets sent off in the second half for a second bookable offence. It was a stupid tackle. He was wearing the captain's armband and he basically dived in when he was nowhere near getting the ball. And there was no complaints from anybody. He was getting a second yellow card. And Everton went 1-0 down against West Ham. They done well to get back into the game through Mason Holgate, believe it or not. And then 4 minutes later, they concede a goal. Like, it's just the lack of focus and the lack of concentration with Everton is ridiculous. I mean, obviously, I think Everton would have been probably happy to take a point out of that game and then put their full focus onto the game against Burnley on Wednesday night. But now we don't have Alan. I don't know what stories with Donny van de Beek. Nathan Patterson apparently rolled his ankle in training the day before the game. He was supposed to start on Saturday or Sunday as well. He rolled his ankle the day before the game. Seamus Coleman didn't train. We're dropping like flies at the moment, and it's all happening at the wrong time. So it's in terms of Wednesday for Everton being the biggest game of the season. It is, because if we win the game,
Yeah,
the pressure isn't off, but it's a 6-pointer because the way it is, looking at the table now at the moment, if Burnley win that game, they're only a point behind us, and we've played them the same amount of games. It's still in Everton's hand to get out of it. But if you look at our fixtures, I mean, we have to play Manchester United next weekend. Do you know what I mean? So it's just,
I
it's
just don't
not
see enough characters in that team, mate. Like,
there's no leaders.
like
It's Michael Keane getting the captain's armband says it all.
yeah.
Says it all.
I think you
What do you
just
think?
need to just. I can hear the dejection in your voice. Do you know what I mean? And no, that's not like, I don't mean that as a joke either. Like, I can generally hear that you're generally worried, and like, obviously doing these shows every week, I take more of an interest in Everton than I usually would, because I know I come on here and do these with you, and I was just like, God, he's gonna go off on one again when I seen the and the rant a couple of weeks ago was good, you know, like, but more for like the way you come across with your analysis, not like that it's funny that you're ranting, because it's not funny, because I'm in the same situation, which you're gonna get later, so don't worry about that. I have to touch my team as well, but it's I can generally like hear the worry, like, you know. And when you says it's time to speak to my team, I could just see the colour just drain out your face. Do you know what I mean? That's the way it is at
The
the
funny
moment.
thing about it was, right, and Keane dropped me in it because Keane asked me for the topics earlier on, and I said nothing about Everton. And then he puts in the topics. Are Everton favourites to be relegated? And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, Everton aren't favourites to be relegated at the moment. But on Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the evening, yeah, they might be favourites to be relegated. I
yeah.
take a point now, to be honest with you. I just
It's
take a point now.
it's like, to be honest with you, like, do you know what it is? Like, I would be honest as well. I wouldn't usually watch that game. Like, there's just like, I do watch a lot of the Premier League, but I would probably wouldn't usually watch that game. But because I do these shows with you, as I say, it's like Everton's a bit microscope to me at the moment. So, and I feel like it's an absolute massive game. Like, it can have such big ramifications in the season going forward. So it's like, I probably
Yeah.
will watch it on Wednesday. And we've changed our football training to Tuesday nights with my under 12s now. So I've got Wednesdays free now. So I'll probably sit down with a cup of tea and have a little watch of it, and just open the WhatsApp group chat and watch Keane wind you up if you go 1-0 down. But nah, on a
But
serious note,
do you know what the frustrating thing about it is, right? And I won't go too much into it, right? But you and me know, right? On paper, that Everton squad shouldn't be anywhere near, right? And I'm not saying they should be top 8 or top 10 or anything like that. They should be nowhere near the bottom 5 of the league, right? On
yeah,
paper, it's when they get on grass, they just don't perform. I think it's a massive lack of confidence, stuff like that. Okay, the club, Everton as a club, are in free fall at the moment. Now, if
yeah,
by some way of miracle they can stay up, the reset button has to be pushed. And I think Frank Lampard will stand there and he'll say, listen, this is what I want. This is how it's going to happen. If I don't get it this way, I'm walking.
mm.
And I would not be surprised if he does that, because at the end of the day, if he keeps Everton up, it's not a case of, yeah, well done, Frank, you did a great job there. It's a case of, yeah, well done. You did your job, right? It's not a case like no Everton fans are going to stand there and be like,
Your
well
inner
done.
Roy Keane came out there. It's his job.
Yeah, exactly. But no, but what I'm saying to you is that when Everton played their last game of the season at Goodison Park, no one's going to be standing there giving them a round of applause.
Oh no, it's going
It's
to
one of
be
the
not.
worst. It's one of the worst seasons I can remember as an Everton fan, right? And when you look back on it, if we do manage to stay up on goal difference on the last day of the season, 17th place, I'll just sit there and go, right, delete that from my memory, because Rafa Benitez was part of it. We sold Luca Dean to one of our rivals and brought in 2 players, and then the manager gets sacked 3 days later. And then we've literally been the worst team since the turn of the year. And I just
think there's
genuinely cannot wait for this to be over. Like, cannot wait for it to be over.
Yeah, I've got the same mindset regarding United, but we'll stick with the Everton theme at the moment. I'd like I said to you a couple of weeks ago, I just don't see enough leaders in that team, and I feel like I went to United. I went to United Everton. I went to that game like sort of earlier on in the season, and I think it was the game that I met Keane actually for the first time in person. I'm not sure actually, so don't quote me on that, Keno, but I think it was. And I remember the at half time I was thinking to myself, I'll be honest with you, I thought this Everton team is awful. Like they're not fit. They didn't look fit, you know. And that's the one thing I would always spin about Benitez when he was at Newcastle as well. That the team always looked leggy. They looked like they were running in gravy, you know. And I got that with Everton. And the one spark for you was Gordon, and he really impressed me. I don't know if he got the goal actually. He might have the equaliser. I can't remember, but. Anyway, and then you look at like the bigger picture of Everton, and I always like to look at recruitment. And although they're not bad players, I feel like he was bringing in like players that are sort of mid to sort of lower league Premier League players. You know, like Damari Gray. He's a decent player, but he's nothing special. Do you know what I mean? He used to play for Leicester. You know, and Townsend, who's probably past his peak now. I know these players have done okay with Everton. I'm not picking at these, but I just felt like there was just an issue like in the summer that they didn't bring enough quality in. And then I kind of feel Lampard's done the same in January. I know his hands were tied a little bit. He didn't have a lot of time. And he brought Van der Beek in, who, I mean, I haven't watched Everton enough to warrant whether he's been good or bad for you. I mean, I'm sure you can tell me that. But like with Ali, like that's just a strange signing. Like everybody knows he's got ability, but I don't think that he wants it no more. Do you know what I mean? I think he's a prime example of he's made it, and he got the big build up, and he earned a few quid with a brand new contract at Tottenham, and his desire just went. And I'm looking at a player now he's just hollow. You know, like nobody can seem to get a beat out of him anymore, and there's no doubt he's got the ability. He's a fantastic player. Like it's like someone needs to just take him to one side and say, "Well, you screw the head on." Like like if he was playing for my team, I'd pull him to the side and go, "Oh, like let's just start sorting yourself out here because you've got And I feel like they went out and bought the young Ukrainian boy, the Mikalenko, is it? Yeah, and they brought Nathan Patterson, who's a fantastic right back for Rangers. I've seen a lot of him. Grant's in the chat as well, so shout out to Grant as well. He knows his stuff on Scottish football, so he raved about Patterson. And then obviously when he got his move to Everton, I thought that's the right sort of signings that Everton need to be. But the problem is at the moment, like they're players for the future, whereas I don't see enough leaders in there. Like if I was in charge of Everton, you might laugh at this, but I would want like a Davis in my midfield or something, someone that's got a little bit of bite. Do you know what I mean? I know he's probably not been the best, but
He's injured, man. He's out.
Oh, is he
He's
injured?
out. Yeah, he's out for the rest of the season. But that's the problem. Like Grant says here, sorry, I'll go back to his first comment there because he added on to that one. Don't know what Matt thinks, but I would be massively concerned by that defence. Keane's challenge for that red card yesterday was sheer stupidity. Jamie, if you haven't seen it yet, go back and watch it. Basically, it was a bit of a cluster around the edge of the box. Ball breaks, and it was kind of a 50-50 challenge. Michael Keane, well, it was more 60-40 in the West Ham player's favour. Right. And Keane just dives in already on the yellow card from 5 minutes before and gets a second yellow card when Everton were still in the game. So sheer stupidity from an Everton centre half, and he's going to miss a massive game on the weekend. But like if you actually look at Everton's season on a whole, okay, financial meltdown over the last few seasons meant we couldn't buy any players in the summer last year. Ralf Benitez coming in as manager, massive mistake. At the time, I backed him because you have to back the manager, whatever. Turns out everybody who didn't back him was right, okay? Then, obviously, financial restraints meant we could only bring Damari Gray in. No complaints at the time. He'd done really well at the start of the season. He's levelled out, fair enough. Then you bring in Andros Townsend, I have no complaints with him either. What you get with him is what you get. He's actually gotten, I think, 6 or 7 goals and like 5 or 6 assists as well. So you cannot complain about Andros Townsend whatsoever.
Yeah.
Then another mistake that Everton made was sacking the manager with like 2 weeks to go in the January transfer window, and then not hiring Frank Lampard till 3 days before the transfer window finished. So what they should have done is sacked Rafa Benitez long before the January transfer window started.
I
Got Frank
agree.
Lampard in at the start of the January transfer window, because then we mightn't have sold Luca Digne to Aston Villa, and then Frank Lampard might have been able to. We probably still would have spent money on Nathan Patterson, in fairness, because we need a replacement right back. And just to answer Grant's next question, what is Frank Lampard not seeing in Nathan Patterson? Surely he's an upgrade on this someone in the team. He was supposed to start Grant on Sunday. Seamus Coleman didn't train when he came back off international duty. But Nathan Patterson rolled his ankle, and Frank Lampard actually said they have to go get a scan on it, and it doesn't look good. So another injury concern for Everton. Andros Townsend is out for the season. Tom Davies out for the season. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's missed most of the season. Donny Van de Beek is pulled up in the warm-up. Don't know what that is. Just
I
players.
didn't realise Davis was out, to be fair.
Yeah,
That's
to be
what I mean.
fair,
It's good that you're an
it was
Everton
one of
fan
those
because I
ones.
get that knowledge.
It was one of those ones where he pulled up with a knee injury
Mm.
in training, and he was out for like, I think it was 2 months. And then out of nowhere, Everton just came out and said Tom Davies is out for the rest of the season, and he put up a massive scar on his hamstring. So it's a completely different injury. Massive, massive scar, like literally 12 inches long on his hamstring.
Oh, really?
It was a serious
Yeah.
surgery. Yeah, he had to get done. So that's just been Everton seasons, man. And I think what needs to happen is the second Everton finish the season, even if we do go down, I'm still holding on to hope that we won't go down, even though I'm losing confidence by the minute as an Everton fan. But if we do stay up, there has to be a reset. There has to be a reset from board level all the way down, right down to the personnel on the pitch. Frank Lampard has obviously called out certain players. Andre Gomez, I don't know where he was in the weekend, but I think he was one of the players that Frank Lampard called out against Crystal Palace. And he wasn't in the matchday squad, I don't think, on the weekend. So there's another player that Everton need to get rid of, because he's on 120 grand a week and he's done nothing for Everton since he came in, really.
Yeah.
So, and then like just stupid stuff, Jamie. I know this. I don't want to come across now the next thing that I say, so I'm going to be careful with the way I word it. Dominic Calvert-Lewin appeared this morning on the front page of GQ magazine. It was like an 8 or 9 page photo shoot.
Yeah.
Now listen, Dominic Calvert-Lewin can do whatever he wants. He can wear whatever he wants. He can be a model, do whatever he wants to do. Okay, but the timing has to be much better, right?
Yeah.
You're an England international centre forward playing for Everton in a relegation battle, the worst position the football club has been in years, right? And you choose now. It's probably not him. It's probably GQ magazine. The photo shoot was probably taken last year, and they've decided to release the pictures today. That's not on him. But the timing has to be better. It has to be better. Surely he can say to them, "Listen, you wouldn't mind releasing that in the summer or something like that." Terrible. Just everything that happens at the moment with Everton, it's just like, oh my god, like what is this? Like he literally did nothing yesterday in the game against West Ham. He hasn't scored a goal since August of last year, and he's an 8 page front cover special in GQ magazine. Like again, he can wear what he wants. He can do what he wants. Just that's me rant over, and I'll move on from that. I don't want to get too much into it.
I
But yeah,
think
Jamie,
I think like you've just listed there, like probably a good 7 or 8 things, mate. And I feel like it always culminates in what you see on the green pitch, you know. And it's just been mistake after mistake after mistake. And like you say, like when you get in a certain vibe from the top, probably cover it a bit later with my United breakdown. This is what happens. Like bad decisions make bad teams. Do you know what I mean? And when you've made a categorical error with the manager that you've brought in at the start of the season, which for me, like a football team needs to have a nice vibe around it, no matter what it is. Like, do you know what I mean? And if you're bringing in a manager that the 95, probably 98% of the fan base didn't want, like that, where's the logic in doing that? Because you're on a shot to nothing already. I feel like Man U are in the same position with Pochettino. If they bring Pochettino in and we lose in the opening day, this negative fan base is coming back to the forefront again. You know, and I just feel like Everton got that so wrong at the time. It's probably still, well, it will still be on there. And I said, that's an accident waiting to happen. He'll be gone before Christmas. That's a terrible appointment. And I didn't see enough at Newcastle to warrant him getting the Everton job. And Newcastle were in the pits at the time. And they didn't have their new owners at the start of the season. And obviously in January, they've done what they've done. But at the time, they love Rafa up here. And I thought, like, you love Rafa, who played 5 at the back and tried to sneak a 1-0 win with a Rondon header or something. Do you know what I mean? The football was diabolical. And I thought, where's Everton's ambition? Like, because I see Everton as like a top 8, top 10 club. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's probably a bit harsher, top 10 club. I think they're better than that, but they've just got a lot of things wrong over the past few seasons, and it's culminated in the worst season probably in the club's history, apart from if they've been relegated in the past. I don't know if they have or not, but
they haven't been relegated since the 50s, so
I think the only saving grace, I just don't see where the goals are coming from. Like, and I also don't see where the goals are not being conceded in that team at the moment. And as I say, like, since I've been doing this show with you, I've kind of started looking at Everton a bit more, because I know we're obviously going to cover them. So I need to be a bit more knowledgeable than I probably would have been if I wasn't doing it with an Everton fan. Do you know what I mean? So, and I just feel like they need to get the fundamentals right. And Lampard needs to just grind out a couple of results, and he needs to become hard to beat. He doesn't need the flair players, and he needs people that are going to grind out results, even if it's draws at the moment, and just get points on the board. But it always filters from the top in football, and bad decisions, as I said earlier, make bad footballing teams. And unfortunately for Everton at the moment, they're going through a period where everything's going wrong. Like you said, you've listed like 10 or 11 things there culminated in where you are in the table at the moment. But I know I said a few weeks ago, and I know you probably won't have the same mindset as me, because you're like a little bit anxious on the situation at the moment. But I feel like there's 3 worse teams in the league than you, and I think that will be a saving grace. But if 5 teams went down,
we'll find out.
If 5 teams went down, I know they don't, and it's hypothetical, but if they did, Everton would definitely be going down. Do you know what I mean? So the fact that it's only 3 and not 5, I feel like that's a huge game. You're going to find out a lot about that Everton squad, because they're going to get it put on them big style by Burnley. They're going to be awkward. They're going to be physical. They're going to be in your face, and they're going to be typical Burnley. And it wouldn't surprise me whether they beat us at the moment, to be honest with you. But you're going to find out who's the characters in Everton's squad.
You say there's 3 worse teams in Everton. We'll find out on Wednesday, because that's literally Everton's biggest game of the season, and then onwards to we're going into that difficult period now where we're playing the likes of Manchester United, Leicester, Liverpool, all there coming at once. A few fixtures for Everton have been rearranged, so I think we're going to be playing. I think we're going to be playing Brentford, Watford, and Crystal Palace. Brentford are at home, Crystal Palace are at home, and Watford are away, and it's towards the end of the season. I think they're in our last 3 or 4 games, so they could be huge. I'm hoping that we're not relying on them. I'm hoping we can get like 6 or 7 points before that, and maybe just try and nick our home game wins.
Yeah.
You don't want to be going into the last game of the season against Arsenal if they're trying to get Champions League football, needing the point. That's all I'll say. But listen, you say badly run teams or badly run clubs make badly run teams. Let's move on to Manchester United. Let's have a little chat about them. Your team. Come back from the international break. Come back from the international break with a 1-1 draw against Leicester. I watched a bit of the game myself, and it's just terrible football, Jamie. It's not even. It's like the players don't want to be there. It's just. It's like the ground is swallowing some of the players up. Pogba, I'm sorry, Pogba is Keane might go mad if he's in the comments.
I don't think he will, mate.
Pogba is. He's not a terrible footballer. At Manchester United, he's a terrible footballer. He doesn't want to be there. He's dreadful.
I think there's a lot of them with that attitude, mate. To be honest with you, I generally Keane does love Pogba, but I don't think he would disagree with that comment you've just made.
How many games has Pogba played for Manchester United in the last 3 seasons where you've actually said he's world class.
Yeah,
In 3
it's
seasons.
always in a France top, you know. So
But like,
he's had a couple of games for Man United, but like this is the issue. Like Pogba, since he's came to Man United, is probably in these two hands. I can probably pick the games what he's played well in, and you think he's got a chance here. But there's just been so many like games where you just think he's not interested, and I generally don't think he is anymore. I think half of that team have checked out. You know, I really do. And it comes from the top again, and I always say it, you know, but it's true. Like I always say, like when you watch football and you analyze football and you do like things like we do on like podcasting and stuff, you need to have a knowledge of the game. You know what I mean? You can't come on here and I'm not saying I know everything. I mean, I'm probably the most rawest person involved with this channel. You know, there's a lot more knowledgeable people and can break down things a
but
lot better
we're
than
not
me
pundits.
yourself.
We're not pundits. We're
Mark
just opinions. That's all it is.
fantastic at breaking things down. And Greg in the comments, he can go into like I'm very raw. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I kind of like that because it's a little bit different. I've only new to this like podcast thing, so I'm like I've not got very good etiquette with certain things. Sometimes I just rant and stuff, you know, but I can read the game and I understand the game, and your eyes don't lie to you in football, Matt. You know, like I always say that your eyes don't lie. You can stat pad as much as you want, but you know whether somebody's at it. I'm sure you played a good level of football, which I learned when we done the show last time that you were in an academy in Ireland, and you know when someone's flagging. You know when someone's not quite at it, or they've probably been on the drink the night before and they just don't fancy it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're playing in the team with someone like that, it's different. It's different, like in comparison to top level football. Of course, they ain't been on the source like the night before a game. Do you know what I mean? But you know when someone's head's not there, and I feel like half of that team's checked out, and it's just complete mediocrity. And when it's coming down from the top, like I'm not going to sit here and dig at Solskjaer, but he got a new contract based on 3 years of winning nothing. Like, do you know what I mean? I know he done a rebuild, a little bit of a rebuild, and he got the confidence factor back. But like, when you get given a contract from a board member based on you doing nothing, as in winning trophies, and that's what it's all about at Man United. Like, let's not beat around the bush. It's not about finishing second and pushing City close. It's about how many trophies are in the cabinet at the end of the season. That's based off of a proper ran footballing team at that level. And the problem is we're not at the level we think we are. And I've probably been a little bit naive. I'm sure the lads that are United fans on this channel have probably done the same. I think we're better than we are. You know, we're not a very good football team at the moment. We don't have any structure. We don't have any plan. We have a manager that has absolutely no control. I think he's making decisions, as in selectional wise, because Rashford would be playing if it was up to the board members, because he's the face of the club. So he has some sort of control. I know Keane disagreed with me when I did say I don't think he's controlling the team, but I still believe that now. He's definitely got some sort of control in it, but I feel like there's so many decisions being made around him that he has absolutely no hand in. He keeps playing down the manager situation when he's asked about it. I'm not the man to ask. This is the guy that they brought in with the plan of listening to him and letting him structure our club, but yet they've brought him in as the manager. And because certain players don't fancy him, all of a sudden now he's the problem. Like Rangnick wasn't brought in to fix the problem. He was brought in to get us to the end of the season. And let's be real here, if we're going to talk about Man United, because I'm probably going to go on a rant because I can feel one coming on. If we're going to be real, they cancelled the season when they didn't bring Conte in on a permanent basis. They cancelled the season off and they went with the interim, and that's just sort of going like this. Right, that's the season over. We'll leave that there. We can get to the back end of the season, maybe get in top 4. We'll get a few quid for that, so that would be ideal. I'm sure Rangnick will be able to get us with that, with the squad we've got, get that, and then we'll reset. Which I'm not saying that's a negative plan if you actually stick to your guns. Do you know what I mean? But they've brought Rangnick in. There's been leak after leak after leak coming out of the club, like an overflowed river at that football club at the moment. No one can seem to pin down where it's coming from. And all of a sudden now, Rangnick's to blame. His form's not great. He's not as good as Solskjaer. That's all I'm reading on social media, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, like, don't bring Ollie back into the equation. That boat sailed. Don't start digging Rangnick out. Ollie didn't have the same issues that Rangnick had. And this is Ollie's squad. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to get in on Ollie because it's not fair, and I'm not going to play the blame game on him anyway because he's not at the club no more, and I generally love him as a human being. So I'm just using him as an example because I feel like it has to be acknowledged. You know, this is his squad, not Rangnick's squad. Rangnick wanted to sign players in January and was told no, so he's working with his hands behind his back, and that wasn't the plan. The plan was to let him come in, assess the situation, work out what he thinks needs to change, this cultural reset that they were speaking about, and give him the power to then make the changes that he needs and have a big hand in the manager. But now you've got players coming out and making fun of his assistant manager, calling him the American
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. Yeah, that's disrespectful, mate. Whether you don't like the guy or not, or whether you think his tactics and his training methods are dated, that's fine. Don't be disrespectful to the guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like that. I don't think that's professional. On a professional level, this is elite level football. These are multi-millionaires. You know what I mean? Like, have a bit of professional respect, you know, towards the guy. You might not be a great coach, but like, be genuine, you know, like, be a good person. And then you've got that we don't like Rangnick. We don't like the training methods there, and it's like we don't want to do the training methods that he's doing. We're training twice a day. Well, do you not want to work hard? Do you know what I mean? Do you not want to prove to the new manager that you should be in the team? It's just been spun round the other way, and you've got the likes of Maguire, Shaw, Rashford, players like that have just are flagging. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh no, like, wait a minute, but this wasn't like it was when Ollie was here. Like, I played every game. I'm sorry, man. Absolutely shocking. Do you know what I mean? Like, take some accountability for yourself and actually go and speak to the man that's not putting you in the team. Instead of whinging to whoever you're whinging and going on international duty, Maguire, and saying this is a lovely atmosphere. Yes, it is. It is a lovely atmosphere because there's no pressure on you playing for England. You know? And it's not a lovely atmosphere at your club because you're completely going against the best player we've got in the whole squad. Because and the problem is, touching on Ronaldo quickly as well, the problem is his level and winning mentality has literally opened the door to realizing that these players are just not it. You know, they ain't got that elite level mentality. He's come in and his expectations of he's been like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, we need to be up here, boys. And they're like, whoa, Cristiano, this is not the way it works here, mate. When Ollie was here, we were sound. Even if we dropped Rashi's in the team, no, that's gone now. Do you know what I mean? And you need to find a big personality in yourself. And like, as I say, why is Rashford not going to Rangnick? I mean, he might be. I don't know Marcus personally. Do you know what I mean? He might have gone and had a conversation with him. But from what I'm seeing on the field, he's the invisible man at the moment. I'm sorry, like, these players need to be called out. I love Marcus Rashford. You know what I mean? There would be nothing more than for me to see him playing in the team and scoring goals and playing well and contributing to the team. But at the moment, he's a shadow of the player he is. And I feel like there's leaks coming out earlier. I mean, we were talking about in the group chat about, they're not too keen on Ten Hag. Like, who are you to say you're not too keen on it? If that's coming from the likes of, I don't know who it's coming from, so I'm not going to name players, but I'm sorry, but he's won trophies. He's got an idea of the way he wants to play. He's got a philosophy. He's good at working with young players. He's got a good identity. So why is he not good enough for you? I'm sorry, you've won absolutely nothing in the last 5 years. So who are you to say who the manager should be? Like, there's a time and a place for. I'm losing my voice because I'm not breathing here.
Yeah, take a breath.
But,
take a breath.
Yeah,
take a breath, right? Because I want to jump into a couple of comments here because Greg, who's also a host on the weekly Armchair Sports Talk, He's come in here with a couple of essays actually here in the comments. So let's get through these. Okay, so player power is the poison at Manchester United Football
Yeah,
Club.
it is,
Football is
Greg.
absolutely dreadful, but the players don't care. No drive, no ambition. Happy to say that they play for United, but they don't want to work to that level. There's a reason Fred has been the best player for us this season. He'd play in goal for United if you asked him to. He also says we definitely thought we could win the league at the start of the season, but the issues with the players are a lot deeper than that. I think Ragnick does know what's going on, but it's not his job to brief the media on the ongoings behind the scenes. He's probably stunned at the level of unprofessionalism
I
at this
agree.
level. And he threw in another comment actually, so we'll get this one out of the way as well. My hope is Ragnick is listened to next season, and every single one of them is making those comments, leaking stories, or don't want the next manager to get shipped. Divas, the lot of them. We could all guess. Sorry, next one. We could all guess the players in question. It ain't Delanga and Fred, is it? So, Greg, listen, say what you really feel, Greg.
Bring his
Do you know what I mean?
first comment back up for me a little minute. The first one.
Yeah. So player power is the poison. That one. Yeah.
Yeah, player power is the poison. Yeah, that's it. And the problem is, Greg, and I like listening to Greg when he's on here as well, talking to United, because he's very passionate and he's a little bit more diplomatical than I am. That just sort of goes off on one, but it like the thing is that he's just hit the nail on the head there. But do you know what it is? That comes from the top, you know, and when your expectations are, if you're a certain level, you're still going to be in the team, which we've had for 3 years. I don't want to keep criticizing Ollie, but I have to go based on what's happened before where we are now. And like contracts have been given out left, right, and centre for players that don't even play in the team anymore. They're keeping players that physically do not want to be at the club. They're not backing the manager in the transfer window to allow him to bring a Zakaria or a Kamara in, that type of player that would have given us a little bit more balance. They said no. So they've went against Rangnick already with that. What would have the harm been bringing Zakaria in for 6 million, or go and signing Kamara for £5-6 million and then being a squad player next season? What's the problem with that? Worst case is they don't quite cut it and you use them as a squad member really well in the system, and you think, you know what, we've signed a really good player there for a cut price. But one that filters from the top, and like I said with Everton, like bad decision making culminates in bad team on football pitch. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that's been dripped from. And how can you be motivated to go out there and give your all for a club when the dialogue with the fan base is zero from the owners? Every single thing they said they were going to do hasn't happened. And it's just like the whole club, you could not pick a more absolute, and sorry for my language, shit show of a club at the moment from top to bottom. The sign at Old Trafford hit the nail on the head, rotten to the core. That's it. That every single thing. Rangnick come in as manager and was given Darren Fletcher. He wasn't even allowed. Now, if that doesn't say everything you need to know about the situation, and my worry is they won't listen to Rangnick, and they'll listen to ex-players or the players in the dressing room. And like as I said earlier, who are they to dictate that Ten Hag isn't good enough? They haven't played under Ten Hag, and he's done a lot more than what these players have done. I mean, Ajax are one of the most exciting clubs in Europe. I know they had a bit of a blip in the Champions League, but he's brought players in that have not done well at other clubs, like Haller, and I think he's like the top goal scorer in Europe. Do you know what I mean? So the United fan base will completely buy into Erik Ten Hag. I'm sure of that. 100% of our fan base will buy into him. Whereas it's the same thing for Everton with the Benitez. If they bring Pochettino in, it's not that Pochettino's a bad manager. I think his careers went a little bit wayward since he left Tottenham. A bad manager, and he wouldn't be a bad choice of manager, but we need something different. Like Pochettino is going to come in and be the nice smiley man that speaks well to the media and doesn't really question anything. The guy didn't get a transfer window at Tottenham and said nothing about it. That's the Glazers' absolute main guy. If they can get hold of him, you know what I mean?
That's the problem. So you look at someone like Ten Hag, who's been known to go to the media and basically tell everybody how it is. I think the Dutch are very like that as people. They're just very honest people, and they just say it how it is. Or you have someone like Pochettino, like you say, who's just a lapdog, and they'll just do exactly what he's told. So I
Well,
think
he's
that might be what
perfect
it
for the
comes down to.
Glazers.
Yeah,
He's perfect for the Glazers, but the issue is they can't get him out. If he was a free agent, there was absolutely no doubt he'd be Man United's manager. No doubt in my mind. But the fact that United's fan base, and United are very social media driven, so they're not stupid when they're looking at little polls and stuff like that. And Ten Hag's the favourite because Ten Hag's fan base, and this might be the same for you as well with that cultural reset. I know you don't necessarily want Lampard out, but with Ten Hag, he gives us a focus and things will be different because he won't come to the club based on, I'll just do as I'm told and I'll try and implement my formation. Apparently, he wants another meeting with the club to make sure that he's going to be given control on transfers and stuff like that, which is everything you want to hear from a fan. Do you know what I mean? That's at a normal proper ran footballing club, that would be a given. You bring the manager in, you let him do it his way. But that doesn't happen at Man United unless you're Solskjaer. I think he practically got everything that he wanted, and it didn't quite work out, unfortunately. But Ten Hag gives us a focus on there's something new, something fresh, and we can all buy into it. And if Ten Hag probably wins his first 2 to 3 games and draws a couple, we'll be fine with it. Do you know what I mean? Or he loses one. We might have to go to Anfield first game of the season. Do you know what I mean? That which will be a difficult game, and the fan base will buy into it. And I feel like if they give him a 5-year contract, the fan base will be like, do you know what? It might not be perfect for the first 1 to 2 years, but if we can make steady progress, like Arsenal have been doing, nice and quiet in the background, just making the right decisions, doing the right things for the footballing culture at the team, the fan base will buy into it. I know I will. I won't question him at all. Yeah. But they need to get the decision right. And the issue for me is I don't have any hope that they're going to do that. I know he's overwhelming favourite. Every single report seems to be coming out that he's the favourite for the job and he's going to get the job. But deep down, the club are probably looking at it and thinking, well, it's like he's a good hit on social media. So he looks the part. He's nice, young, nice, fresh, bald head. He'll go nice. Do you know what I mean? He'll fit the mold. We'll get fans side. When the real issue is them and their bad decision making. So until they take a step back, stop listening to players that have been absolutely mediocre this season at best, and that's me being very polite. Until they step away from that and let the footballing people get put in the right places and allowed to do their job. I've seen a rumour that Rangnick's going to be brought in once a month to advise the team. Just get rid of him then. If you're not going to let him do what he's done for the last 10 years with the Red Bull Group and Lokomotiv Moscow and building a nice, healthy, young, exciting squad, just get rid of him if you're not going to allow him, because we keep getting linked with, we've been linked with Eriksen today, we've been linked with Kane, we've been linked with Rice. All great players, yeah. Who have they all sort of played under bar Rice? Pochettino. So it's just got that little feeling that I don't think it's a dead rubber that Ten Hag's going to get a job. Probably about 60-40 at the moment that he will. I hope he will, because as I say, I know I've rambled on a little bit here, but he's the sign of hope, and I feel like he probably doesn't even know it, bless him. Do you know what I mean? But our fan base are like literally looking at that and thinking, you're the guy for us, man. Like, we need you more than you need us, I think, at the moment. And he's going to need a magic wand and some magic dust, because that team is going to fall apart in the summer, because we've got a lot of players out of contract, a lot of players that don't want to be there. We've got the Ronaldo issue to deal with, whether he's going to stay, whether he's going to go. And the way it's going at the moment, I think the best thing that could possibly happen to us, because every single week, you know, when you said like the relegation's getting shorter, but with United, it was like, right, we're competing with City and Liverpool. Right, okay, now we're not. We're competing with Chelsea. We're competing with Tottenham and Arsenal. Right, now Chelsea are away, so it's just Tottenham and Arsenal now. Right, okay. So now we're competing with Wolves and West Ham. I'd just rather be out of Europe if you're talking that conference, Europa League conference. I don't want any part of that. Don't even want to be in the Europa League. So if we need to do what Arsenal have done, then so be it. But it's going to be a long road. It's going to get worse this season, 100%. I'm going to be doing more of these rants on here, 100%. But it's a
Well,
case of
let's give Greg the last word on this United one. So I do think blaming the Glazers for everything is a bit lazy. It does stem back to them, but it's not possible for a Man United team with a proper football and structure to be successful as the Glazers do and have invested. I tend to agree with that. I think
yeah,
that
I agree with it as well.
Manchester United team on paper should be top four. I mean, they're better than Arsenal. On paper, they're better than Arsenal. They're better than Spurs. They're better than West Ham on paper. They're just not performing as a team. We said at the start, they're a team of individuals. And
Yeah.
until somebody comes in with a football structure and ideology that gets that team playing to a certain level, then they're just going to continue going backwards, like you said. But listen, we're nearly 5 minutes left before 8 o'clock. We're going to blitz through these upcoming fixtures. The upcoming fixtures starting, well, last week's fixtures are finishing tonight. It's a game kicking off in 5 minutes' time. Ramsdale is back in goal for Arsenal. Just seeing there, flash up on the screen. Crystal Palace are hosting Arsenal. Then obviously we have the game we've been talking about, Burnley against Everton on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go into this weekend's fixtures, full weekend of fixtures. No cup competitions interrupting this weekend. You have Newcastle and Wolves on Friday evening at 8 o'clock. Then you have a big game Saturday. Grant mentioned it in the comments there earlier on. Everton are at home to Manchester United at 12:30 Saturday morning. Huge game for both teams. Both teams struggling for points for different reasons. I think if Manchester United don't get a result in this game, I think they can pretty much call their season over. Done with. I think a lot of the players will just pack up and just be like, right, that's us done this season, whatever. And if Everton are coming off, like if Everton, I think my attitude towards this game against Manchester United on Saturday will all depend on what happens on Wednesday night against Burnley. So I'll give you my opinion in the chat, Jamie, on Thursday morning of how I feel about this game on Saturday morning. Then we have Arsenal against Brighton. Arsenal continuing to try and get into the top four. Big game for them tonight against Crystal Palace, obviously. So we'll see how they go there. Southampton face Chelsea. Watford against Leeds. Big game down the bottom there. If Watford can somehow get a result there, brings Leeds back into it. If Leeds can get a win there on the road, you could nearly say that they're safe. Aston Villa against Tottenham. Like we say, Tottenham are kind of on the road there trying to challenge for top four now. They were in the top four there for about an hour there earlier on in the weekend. So they're going to be looking to try and get back into that top four with this game. Then we move on to Sunday. There's 4 games on the Sunday, starting off with Brentford against West Ham, be a decent little game. Leicester are at home to Crystal Palace. Big game down the bottom again, Norwich against Burnley. That for me is another reason why this game on Wednesday is massive for Everton. Because if Everton lose to Burnley, we won't be in the relegation zone. But then Burnley are playing Norwich, we could be in the relegation zone if United do us as well on the weekend. And then I think if Everton are in the relegation zone, and the games in hand and all are all out of position, then
United
I think
win
we're
a
in
game.
serious trouble.
Good joke.
Well, Everton win a game. Good joke. We're both in the same position.
You know that's got a 3-3 written all over it.
Yeah, but listen, big game. Then probably the biggest game of the season. We've talked a lot of doom and gloom on this podcast. We've talked about relegation. We've talked about boards ruining teams. But the title could be decided on Sunday at 4:30. Manchester City take on Liverpool at the Etihad. We talked about this game a few weeks ago. Huge game. I think if Liverpool win that game, I think you can nearly say it's in their hands then. They just need to win the rest of their games and they'll win the league. Exact same situation for Man City. I think Man City will probably take a draw now as well. They'd be happy with a draw. They probably wouldn't be happy with a draw, but they won't be disappointed with a draw because that means they're still ahead of Liverpool. I said to you a few weeks ago, I think Klopp will go all out for this game because he doesn't want to go to the end of the season and regret not trying to win this game. I mean, if they go there with a defensive attitude and Man City beat them 1 or 2-0, they'll regret it in the long run. That mean it also means that Man City can afford to lose another game in the run-in, with 5 or 6 games left.
Huge game, isn't it?
It's massive game. I mean, 4:30 on Sunday.
It's a credit to both teams, isn't it? I know when we first done episode 1 of these together, we were speaking about their consistency, and it's ridiculous to think that in a Premier League that, in my opinion, is so competitive now. Like every team's getting better year on year, and teams are getting stronger. That Liverpool, you can just look at Liverpool and think, well, they ain't gonna lose a game. Like in this level of football in league, it's an absolute credit to them as teams, and it's hard to say from a Man U fan's point of view because it's two teams that I despise, and obviously you with Liverpool, but it's like you've got to just sometimes be like, do you know what a fantastic footballing teams, and it's literally one style against the other at the weekend, and is it the late kickoff, is it?
Yeah, 4:30 last game of the weekend, 4:30 kickoff.
I probably won't see it live. I'm going to go and watch the ice hockey on Sunday. So I don't think I'll catch that, but I'll definitely be watching it on extended highlights because I might even catch the. I've told the missus we're going ice hockey, and she was a bit disappointed we didn't go yesterday. So I best keep her in the good book somewhere. But it's a case of credit to them, man.
Trevor coming in here late. Trevor coming in here late. Good evening, Matt Shelley. And Jamie Almiron Mackay. Yeah.
Almiron Mackay.
Here, Trevor, I'm trying to go for the Mark Gillette Biggs look. What do you think?
When's Trevor coming on? When are we making this happen?
We have to get Trevor on, yeah.
I don't know who this guy is, just his name. So he always gives me a bit of stick, so we'll get him on and have a little bit of crack with him. He was giving me stick last night as well on another show, Trevor. So I've seen the comments, lad. Don't worry.
We're up to an hour there now, and obviously another Paul's come in here as well. Evening, guys. Thanks, Paul. Thanks to everybody in the comments. Obviously, everyone just got stuck in. Bit of a doom and gloom episode this weekend.
Do you feel better for it though, lad?
No,
do you feel better? Because I do a little bit actually.
I don't. My screen was falling down there, honestly. No, I don't feel any better, to be honest with you, because obviously for me as an Everton fan to turn around and say Wednesday away to Burnley is our biggest game of the season. What? Like, do you know what I mean? So no, I don't feel any better of it, and I don't think it's gonna get any better come Wednesday. If you give me a point now, I'd probably take it, to be honest with you. Trevor coming in here, not a bad look, Matt. A close shave for first. And then Paul says, stop following me, Trevor. Two boys having a chin wag there in the comments. But listen, thanks so much to everybody who was in the comments. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Obviously, if you have been in here, make sure you like the stream, share the stream, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you obviously subscribe to the channel because there's loads going on in this channel. I mean, Reese and the guys, obviously WrestleMania happened there on the weekend. Reese, Keane, and Vicky got stuck into a couple of streams there on the weekend as well. I believe Reese hosted, I think it was 11 hours in total over the 2 nights. He was basically doing watch alongs for the WrestleMania. So fair play to Reese and the guys who helped him out getting stuck into those videos as well. No United podcast on tonight. I believe it's later on in the week. I think possibly might be Wednesday. I'm not sure. I'm sure Keane might be able to show up in the comments there and I'll highlight it. But the channel's been going from strength to strength lately. We've had, obviously in terms of Manchester United, the guys on the channel, the majority of the hosts on the channel are Manchester United fans. So there's been a lot of interviews with Dutch journalists about Ten Hag and stuff like that. Maybe we get somebody in to talk about maybe Pochettino, because Jamie seems to think Pochettino is going to be coming in as well. So maybe get somebody in who's maybe going to bat for the Pochettino side, and we get those type of things in there as well. But obviously, we also have Rach and Greg, who's in the comments there, who do Dimes and Buckets as well. Basketball. So if you're into basketball, make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. They come in and do that show on Friday evenings as well with Tim, all the way from Canada. So I hope I got that right, Tim. I'm pretty sure you're from Canada. I don't want to say you're American if you're from Canada. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's loads of stuff coming up, loads more interviews, loads more shows. So yeah, Jamie, anything to say before we sign out for the evening and we could watch Arsenal Crystal Palace tonight?
No, just obviously good to be back on with you. Good to I know it's like a therapy session this for me and you at the moment. So I always appreciate it. Thank you very much for everyone getting in the comments as well. And it was just to second what you said there. There's so many good people involved with this channel, and some that you don't even see on the show. So it's a credit to be involved. Obviously, I only come on the Monday, but hopefully we can get involved more in the United stuff with all the other lads as well going forward. But just
so we're gonna have to do something on it. We're gonna have to do something this weekend because obviously Everton are playing Manchester United, so I'm sure there's gonna be a preview show there that I might have to show my face on, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So
no,
it'd
I'm
be
sure
funny.
that'll
It's
be
gonna be a
fun to.
funny. It'd be a funny preview show now if it's on Thursday after the Burnley game and Burnley beat Everton, won't it?
Just massive, well done to Reese as well with regards to the
Yeah,
WrestleMania thing. That's incredible work. Hope you've recovered from yesterday, Reese. But I'll not mention what I'm talking about. But you'll know. But yeah, just keep supporting the channel, keep showing everybody love, and like the content's coming thick and fast, and there's some really good people involved with this platform. So keep getting involved in comments, keep liking, supporting channels, subscribing, and there's a lot more to come. I have quite a lot of chats with Kino, and I know he's got some big plans going forward. So yeah, just keep showing the love, and thank you very much for everyone that obviously comes and chats to me and Matt every week. So I really appreciate that side of things as well. Although I do get a couple of snipes from Trevor, let him go. So, but now spot
yeah,
on, and good to see the familiar names in the comments as well.
yeah. So we're gonna leave it there, guys. Obviously, yeah. I think Jamie might be referring Reese to Celtic winning the Old Firm yesterday, and Celtic probably confirming winning the title. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Reese obviously hosts the I always get the name of the show wrong. I'm so sorry, Reese. The Steel Chair podcast, the weekly Steel Chair podcast. It's on Thursdays. If you're into your wrestling, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Put the notification bell on because Reese hosts that show every Thursday as well. So make sure you get stuck into that as well if you like your wrestling. I'm sure you can have a look back at the watch alongs as well that Reese did on the channel as well. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. I've been Matt Smith. He's been Jamie McCoy, and that was the Talk of the League podcast.
That was